My dear Rooney, I sent off a cable to you when I received your most vivid letter and the Presto photograph. Didn't the Presto remind you of Fatafat Photo? It did me. Your letter was delightful and reassuring as it clearly showed that you liked being where you were and doing what you were doing. This is the best tonic you can have for life ahead of you. Do you know that between this letter of yours and your previous letters one could feel the difference of several years of maturity, as if merely by the fact of launching upon a career of your own and by being in different surroundings away from home, you had added many years of maturity to your being. Within a week I'll be sending you a draft for £40 or £50 so that your bank account looks a little richer, and you have less anxiety about possible emergencies. Luckily, you have known a great deal about England from books, magazines, etc., etc., and directly from persons who have lived there, including such travellers as me and Uncle Zab. I'm sure, therefore, that you would not have had the same strange and sometimes baffling reactions about your environment that I had. For example, when I arrived at Victoria Station, London in 1926, with no one to meet me there, and heard unintelligible Cockney from the railway porter for practically the first time in my life. Also, when I didn't know whether a taxi would or would not be beyond my means, or whether I should or should not speak to a woman. Nevertheless, parents have an incurable habit of giving good advice, in season and out of it, even when it is not needed. It arises from affection and from protective desires and from anxiety for your welfare, born of love. Let me therefore give way to this incurable habit, and if you find my advice superfluous, as I sincerely hope you will, I'm sure you will, you can ignore it forgivingly. That is to say, without being irritated by it. I will make it as brief as I can. First of all, a very simple piece of advice. Avoid breaking the law. I don't mean resist the temptation of committing a murder or robbing a bank. Your life is not heroic enough to have such monumental desires, as you haven't had the ample opportunities that are provided by having been brought up amongst hoodlums and gangsters. But one is always liable to break laws in little things. One had better avoid that in foreign countries. It is bad manners for a foreigner to enjoy the hospitality of a country and then break a queue or traffic rules or rationing regulations or evade taxes. It is also suicidal, for you'll find that if you break a law, the consequences will depress you more in a foreign country away from home than if you broke the same law in Lahore. Deep down, being civilized, we are always afraid of breaking the law, and it is no use surrounding ourselves with avoidable fears, especially in another country where these fears are likely to be large. Secondly, women. This is not a delicate subject. I am not going to speak about the delicate side of this matter. There's nothing concerning that aspect of which you do not know or which your good senses, good breeding, and decent values will not guide you in. And if you do not have the good values, 1 or 1,000 letters from me will not give them to you. All that I wish to say is that when you meet women, you are bound to show off a little. We all tend to do so, more or less according to the amount of vanity and the amount of desire to appear good and great, in addition to being good or great. But do not try to impress women, or for that matter anyone, with your money. This is vulgar, and besides can have disastrous consequences purely from the worldly point of view. Do not transform what can be a very pleasant experience into a vulgar or an expensive hobby. It is like smoking. Smoke if you want to. It is a mildly sinful, mildly expensive, and mildly soothing activity, but there is a difference between smoking and chain smoking, also between smoking and taking drugs like opium. The next 2 or 3 years are important in your life. On them depends how comfortable your life as an individual, or as the husband of a wife or the father of children will be in years to come. Keep these 2 or 3 years reasonably free from entanglements that may be too big for you to handle. Also, do write regularly to Mummy, however brief the letters. You are more important to her than she is to you. Also, with the years, her need of you will grow greater, your needs of her perhaps less. Therefore be kind and considerate. Her demands will be urgent to her, but not great or difficult to fulfill. Keep in constant touch with Mansoor. Do not let this friendship wither away for want of feeding. If he was only your brother, he could some time or other become a nuisance in life, but luckily he is also a very good friend, and a friend is never, never worth losing. This letter has almost become like Polonius's speech to Laertes. I am too close to it to see whether it is full of cliches and as pompous as Polonius's string of wise sayings was. But I am not afraid of exposing my pompousness to you if I have it in me. You and I have been friends for many years. You have been a jolly fine companion to me, and I do not mind if I reveal my worst weaknesses to you. I am sure you will forgive them, and at the worst will smile at them with understanding and affection. I am studying the Mexican system of education on behalf of our government. A large part of the Mexican population is illiterate and backward, but since the Mexican Revolution of 1910 there's a great stirring of the soul in this baffling and picturesque country, and their struggle to rise and redeem their cultural soul are fascinating and inspiring. This will take me right up to the end of June. After that I'll probably go to London, and then to Montreal. All these are in response to invitations received. Thereafter back home through London, of course, and who knows, I may steal time to look you up in Liverpool, or you to look me up in London. I'll keep you fully informed of my movements and my plans. Mummy asked me to send you some clothes from here. I'll be sending you money instead, as clothes rationing is off in England. Sending stuff from here is expensive and complicated. A little later you might give me a picture of how you stand financially, so that I send you a steady supply of filthy lucre, according to your needs. I was going to say that I'm not rich, but you know how rich or poor we are. Bless you, and wish you the best of luck. Have a good time. I'm using good in the Greek sense. The Greeks had the word kalos, which meant three things at once: the great, the good, and the beautiful. For in their great wisdom they realized that all three were inseparable. With best of love, affectionately, Daddy. P.S. Keep your Urdu alive. Ask Mansoor to keep you supplied with an occasional book or magazine. This is important.